Hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, your CNC router bit supply company. In this video, I want to show you something really interesting on CNC routers. It's writing with a CNC router, like writing like that. Now, we have Liberty over here. Say hi, Liberty. Liberty's our shipping girl. She's the one that sends you your packages and writes really cool stuff on your packages and sends you M&Ms. But what she's doing right now is writing on a card. So bring it in and see what we're doing here. So we're writing on these cards from IDC Woodcraft, Hello CNC. And if you notice here, excuse me, Liberty, we have a whole stack of them. IDC Woodcraft has product on Amazon, and we always want to put a personal touch on the packages. And she's like, you got to write something on these cards, Garrett, that we send to Amazon and when people purchase from Amazon. So we ended up getting this pen writing jig from Shark CNC, Shark Next Wave, that writes on these cards. And so what she does is she just places the card on the machine after I've programmed it, and voila.
And this is your handwriting, right?
This is my handwriting. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create handwriting using the Vectric software, and then we'll get it over to the CNC router. This guy right here, the long mill CNC router. But I'll show you how to actually draw this stuff up in the Vectric software. So when Liberty is done, we will go ahead and get into the software. I'll write up this little Hello CNC, show you how I do it, and then we'll bring it over to the machine. idcwoodcraft.com. Liberty's all done now, so we can get rolling on this. Here's how all this starts for me to be able to write Hello CNC on the Amazon cards that go out from IDC Woodcraft. So what I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper and literally just write on it, Hello CNC. And I'll put an exclamation point and an underline. And that's it. With that, the next thing I'll do is I'll grab my cell phone and I will simply take a picture of it. What I'll do is I'll get a pretty good distance from the project, maybe zoom in a little bit. I'm not really worried about shadow or background stuff that's like printed on the other side of the paper. I can work with that. So I'll simply just take a snapshot, and that's it. So we are now on the Vectric software, and the tools that I'm going to use may not be in other design softwares, but there are similar things that you can play with in your design software. So the first thing I want to do is create a file. We'll click that, and then we have to set up our job. This is a single-sided job, and we just need to set up the width and the height of the envelope, which is 5.5 inches wide by 4 inches tall, and I'm not worried about the depth. We are going to set this off the material surface and the lower left corner of the project. Click OK. And now what we need to do is import this photo. Now, however you transfer photos to your computer is up to you. I simply just emailed the photo to me, and now I've downloaded it to my computer. So what we're going to do is in the Vectric software, at the very top where it says File Operations, there is a folder with a little blue arrow coming out of that. That's where we import a picture or a bitmap. We're going to select that and go to the appropriate folder, which I have brought it into my downloads folder, and there's the image right there. So I'm going to double click it, and now it is in this project. And you can see there's some numbers and stuff. That's actually a back of a bank statement. I don't really need that. I don't really care about that. What I'm going to do is expand the size of this picture a little bit bigger. I want the Hello CNC to be bigger. So I double click the image, and these little beads came up all the way around, and I'm simply going to hover over one of the beads, the white beads on the corner, and I'm going to choose the lower left corner at this point and drag it out. Now, to help you understand what these beads are for, the white beads will expand and contract the images however you decide to do it. So I've grabbed the one on the right, and I'm stretching that out, and if I grab the one on the left, it's going to do the same thing. If you grab the one on the bottom or the top, it's going to stretch it up and down. and the corner, of course, will bring it. Both X and Y will scale as you stretch it. Now I want to undo all that to get it back to the original image, so I'm going to press Control Z, and I'll press that several times until the size is back to normal, which there we go. So I'm going to grab the lower left bead. Remember, you can do any corner. Just going to increase the size of it, and I want to center this somewhere over the project. Now, I can't really tell if I'm centered, so what I'm going to do is going to show you an interesting little trick with an image so that you can get noise out of the image. What we're going to do is create a rectangle around Hello CNC, and I'm going to crop away the rest of this image. So we're going to come over to the Create Vectors area and select the rectangle. I don't want to worry about anything here in the menu of the rectangle. I'm simply going to come over and find the high point, which is the top of this exclamation point. Hold my left mouse button down, stretch out over Hello CNC, let go, and now we've created a rectangle. We're going to close the rectangle function, and while the rectangle is selected, I'm going to hold the Shift button down and select the image. So you can see that the Hello CNC rectangle and the image are both selected. We're going to go to the Edit Objects area and the third row down, all the way to the right. When you hover over it, it says Crop Bitmap. And there's that little circle on a little rectangle. And what that's going to do is going to chop away everything that's outside that rectangle. So as you watch the screen, I'm going to click the button, and the computer's going to think for a minute, and there it is. It got rid of all that. So now I don't have any more noise on this. You can't see my bank statement and how poor I really am, but that's okay. And so what I'm going to do now is just eliminate the rectangle I just drew. So we're going to zoom in a little bit, select that rectangle. You can see it selected now. Hit the delete button and the rectangle is gone. So now we have this image right here, Hello CNC. It is roughly in the middle of the card, and I can move it around all I want by double clicking the image. The beads pop back up, and we can grab the center little square and hold the left mouse button down and drag it anywhere we want. But I'm pretty happy where it's at. This is just a handwriting thing to let whoever's receiving the package, when they purchase it off of Amazon, to feel like there's a little bit of a personal touch to the package. I mean, that's what we want. That's what we do with IDC Woodcraft. Anything that you order, we always give you that personal touch, because we know that you are on the other side of that transaction, a person. And so now we are going to do the handwriting over this. We can do this in several ways, but there is one simple tool that you have maybe not used yet that came out in version 11.5, and it's the freehand tool. Basically, you can draw freehand on the design that whatever you're working on, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. We got Hello CNC here. We're going to come up to Create Vectors. The second row down. Now the thing with the second row is this creates all open vectors. They create lines that are not closed. Now what I mean by that is a closed vector would be a circle. There's no end to the circle, or a rectangle. You can keep going around it. It's closed. Whereas an open vector would be a line. There's a start point and a finish point. So what we're going to do is come to the open vectors drawing area, which is draw a line, straight line, draw a arc, draw curves, and this fourth one is the one that we want, where it says freehand drawing. Select that, and you've got some sliders here, and the sliders are going to determine how tight the freehand drawing is, as kind of how it's going to place nodes. Now I'm not going to dive deep into that because I'm still learning this part, but the handwriting part is really cool. While this is selected, we're simply going to come over to the H in hello. Now you see my cursor is a little plus, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right at the top of the H. We'll even come in closer, and I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and I'm simply going to drag down along that line. And I'll even put that little hook in there. So I stopped for a moment and then I hooked around. So you can see I have now drawn a line over that H. It's not quite as straight as what I wrote in my handwriting, but that can be fixed up. Of course, this is handwriting. Handwriting isn't clean and straight, so I'm not going to worry about straightening things up, but I'll show you how to straighten things up and rearrange them as you need. We're going to come over to the cross part of the H, and it looks like I started on this side, so I'm going to start on that side. I'm simply going to hold my left mouse button down and draw a cross, and then we'll finish the part of the H. We're just going along that way, and there we go. We have just drawn the H exactly the way I write an H. And we're going to do this for all the rest of these. Now, if you notice, you can't really see it here. I'm going to see if I can move this around. As I hold my left mouse button down over the top of the E, a little circle pops up around the plus. Now, what is happening with that circle is as you're drawing, the line is attached to the plus on your cursor. As you're drawing, wherever you're going, that line is basically drawing a straight line to the boundary of that circle. So as you're drawing, once you leave that, once the line leaves that circle, then it's going to be free to go wherever it goes, wherever you're drawing. What I'm going to do now is change that a little bit. We're going to go to the stabilize slider, and what I'm going to do is slide it all the way to the right, and now I'm going to click my left mouse button again, and now you can see that yellow circle is a lot bigger. Now you notice as I'm moving, the yellow circle is not changing until I actually touch the circle. And the line is actually drawing from the center of the circle. So I said to the outside of the boundary edge of the circle, but the cursor comes to the edge of the circle, and then it starts to move with that line. It starts to draw the line from the center of the circle. So if you want to draw really fine detail, just make a smaller circle by reducing the stabilizer bar down to, no, here, which is where I was working at before. So I'm going to hit Control Z to get rid of what I just wrote, and we are going to continue on. Now I'm going to hold over the E and just drag. Now you see I goofed up already. I can always hit Control Z to undo and restart, and I'll just come down and swing around like that, and we just come around like that. It's very close to what I draw. Now what happens if we want to continue on from one of the start points or the end points of that line? Well, it's really easy. You just hit the control button while you're hovering over the end point of the line. You see there's a little target that pops up. When that target is popped up and I start to draw a new line, it's going to attach itself to the original line that I already had drawn for the top of the E. And the way we can tell is I'm going to hit the escape button to end that function, and I'm going to select that second line I drew, and you can see it is all one vector. I'm going to hit Control Z because I don't need that section. We're going to restart the freehand and then come back in and just write what looks like a half moon, which is my L, and I just did a really bad job at drawing that L. So we're going to adjust it using a different way. I'm going to show you how to do it using nodes. Nodes are transition points in lines. So with a node, you can actually edit the node, move them around, and do all kinds of things. I got a video about nodes. I'll link that down in the description of this video so you can learn about nodes, because nodes are one of the most important things you need to know when it comes to working with your design software, particularly Vectric. So while I'm here, I'm going to exit this freehand drawing by hitting the close button. I'm going to come over and select the line so it's highlighted, and on the computer keyboard I'm going to press the letter N, and now we have our nodes pop up. And all you have to do is hover over a node. As you see with my cursor, first of all, we know we're in node mode when we have the arrow without the tail on it. I'm going to hit escape button. Watch the cursor. When I do that, it changed color, it added the tail. When I hit N, it lost the tail, and now I just need to select the line. There are the nodes. When you hover over a node, you can see the cursor changes to a little target. That means I can grab that node, and I'm going to drag it over to the line. I'll grab the next node, drag that over. I'll grab that last node and drag it over. Now that looks a little funny there, so you see these little flags for the nodes. We can grab the end of the flag and change that as well. And so there we have made some adjustments to my imperfect handwriting on the computer. Freehand drawing takes a little bit of practice and technique, but it's an interesting way of doing things, like writing a letter over and over and over again, like hello CNCer. So I'm going to get back into this. I'm going to fix the rest of this up. Oh, one of the other thing, I have two nodes right there. I don't need two nodes close together, so I'm going to hover over this node and on the keyboard hit the letter D, and that node went away. And then I'm going to hover over this node and just put it over there, and now I have followed my L much better. We'll hit escape to get out of node. Nodes are very important, so you definitely want to go watch that video that I just told you about. Again, I will link that in the description. A lot of times when you're doing design work, and especially if you're brand new with the Vectric software, and sometimes things don't seem to work out the way you want them to, and it's usually because a closed vector is not actually closed, or nodes are crossing over each other, many different things. So I'm going to go back to freehand, and I am simply going to finish this out. At this point, I have drawn it up. It actually took me about 3 minutes to do this. A couple of boo-boos in here, but this is the fun part about this. You can correct boo-boos in your own handwriting, like this letter R. You can see I added a little bit more of a rollback on it just to clean it up a little bit and make it look more like an R. When you're doing things like the apostrophe or a period, you always want to get a little bit of a line in there, not a dot, a line, because you want that CNC router to come down and just move just a little bit just to make the mark. So that's what you need to do. And you'll also see that my exclamation point is way high over that period. So here's how we're going to fix this. First of all, I'm done with the freehand, so we're going to close that. And I'm going to turn off this bitmap so we can see exactly what I wrote. So we're going to come up to this area, layers. Now, the thing with layers is another very valuable tool that you will find extremely useful when you're doing your design work, especially when it's a little complicated, where you have multiple layers. I've created a video about layers. It deep dives into it so you understand it. I suggest that you go watch that. Layers and nodes. You will find those invaluable tools in your design work. So I've come up to layers, and whenever you import a bitmap, it'll always create a layer called bitmap layer. But that's where the image is. Now you see the little light bulb next to it. I'm going to turn that light bulb off by clicking it. Right now it's yellow. It's indicating that it's on. And if you watch the screen, you can just turn that off and the image went away. Now the drawing is on layer 1. I'm going to hit the light bulb next to layer 1 and everything's going to go away. So that's the thing with layers. We're active on the layers, layer 1, because it says it's red there, and also at the top it says layer 1. So I want to turn that back on. Once I turn that back on, layer 1 will turn black, and you'll know you're on layer 1 again because it's bold there as well. So we're going to simply come over and click in the drawing area, and I'm going to select this top of the exclamation point line, and I just want to move it down. So I'm simply going to use the arrow keys on the keyboard to nudge it down and get it a little bit closer to where I want it to be. And that, my CNC creator, is it with the freehand. Very simple. It's kind of fun to work with. But now we got to actually design up the tool path with the pen. One thing with the tool path and pens, the tool I'm using here, which I'll explain to you in a minute, and I will link that down below, you can't go deep. You can use a standard profile toolpath, but your depth of cut technically needs to be very shallow. Now this tool gives you a 1/4 of an inch motion, but there's a spring load and actually can push down kind of hard on the paper that you're drawing on. It's something you have to get used to. So we're going to program this up real quick. Very easy to do. Come up to this little blue arrow in the upper left and click it, and that's going to switch us over to toolpath. And we're simply going to come over to profile, the very first toolpath, select that, and it doesn't necessarily matter what CNC router bit we select here, because we are actually going very, very shallow. Now you can use an engraving toolpath. I'm just going to use a profile toolpath on this because that's all I want to use. It's just easy for me to do it that way. The key here is to make sure the depth of cut is set properly. So what I'm going to do is change that depth of cut, and I have learned that the depth on the pen, once the pen touches the paper and starts to apply pressure, is about a 0.01 to 0.03. So I'm going to change this to a 0.02, and then I'm not going to worry even about the tool here. It's an end mill. The thing that's important is to, on your machining vectors, you want to be on the line. We want that pen to draw right on the lines that we drew right over here in the Hello CNC. So select on. Climb, conventional doesn't matter. We are actually ready to go, other than I've got to select these vectors. Now, one of the things when this machine is writing, and we're doing it over and over again to write these thank you cards, I want it to be efficient. So we're going to select the vectors in the specific order that I want the program to write the G code in. So here's how we do that. We simply select the first line in H, and then I'm going to hold the shift button down from now on, and I'm going to select the lines in the order in which I wrote them. I'm still holding the shift button down as I'm selecting everything. And we'll do the dot right there, that line right there, and the underline, and we are set. We're simply going to name this down at the bottom, the toolpath. It's going to be Hello CNC, and calculate. And that's it. So what we're going to do now is just simply generate the toolpath for this, and then we'll set up the machine. Close that. In the Vectric software, it's the very lower right icon. When you hover over it, it says Save Toolpaths. We want to make sure the Hello CNC or toolpath is checked in the little checkbox. Select that, and just simply come down, as long as you have your right post-processor selected, come down and click Save Toolpaths. And I'm going to save it to my Downloads folder. The name of the file is Hello CNC. Going to click Save. That's it. We are ready to go. We're going to come over to the G-Sender software. Now, G-Sender is the control software for any Arduino-based CNC routers. Now, I use the long mill CNC router, which is a very economical and very strong CNC router that I recommend for anyone who's looking to get into this, that's going to put it in their workshop. I've got a deep dive video on the long mill. If you're in the market for a CNC router, down in the description, I will put that information for you. I also have a video, what they call the Ultimate Buyer's Guide, to tell you exactly what you should be looking for in a CNC router while you're doing your shopping and what you absolutely want to stay away from. If you're not knowledgeable about CNC routers, then I definitely recommend that video. I will put that down below, the Ultimate CNC Router Buyer's Guide. So G-Sender is the most current control software that is available for CNC routers, like the long mill CNC router, this MK2 here. The reason I always recommend that over UGS or some of the other ones that are out there is because it is currently and always being updated. Whereas the other ones, they've written the software, the control software, and that's it. They leave it alone instead of always improving on it. So I always recommend G-Sender, by the way, besides, it's a very user-friendly program. So we're going to simply come into Load File, go to the directory that it's in. There it is, Hello CNC. click it, open, and it has now loaded into the Genter software. You can see everything right here. And now all we have to do is set up the CNC router, and we can start writing anything you want. Draw pictures. The cool thing with this is you can have like your grandkid draw a picture, and then you can do maybe work with him and design this stuff up, or do it yourself and draw it up and carve out on a project exactly what he drew. That's kind of cool. All right, we're going to get into the setting this little tool up. So this is the tool that we're using. It comes from Shark Next Wave. They call it the Shark Tooth, and it's got a hole for your pen or your marker that comes in at an angle just like this. So what we need to do is, first of all, we're going to have to put the pen in, but we don't know exactly where to bring the pen down to have the center, have it centered on the shaft. So we're going to put it in the router first. Now I just want you to notice that this is spring loaded, so it can take the, when a pen touches down, it'll push up a little bit. But the one thing I don't like about this is pretty heavy spring pressure. I suppose I could loosen that collar and back that off a little bit, and that will lighten up the spring pressure. But that's something you can do. So what we're going to do is put this up in the router, and this never spins. You never turn the router on when you're using this thing. So simply, I'm not gonna put it in real tight, just enough to hold that. That's all I need. And then we're gonna move the machine over to the surface. Now I gotta write on this card here. So then what we want to do is put the pen in, and I changed these screws because I wanted longer screws in there, but they comes with set screws. And we're going to drop the pen in, and if you can see, it's just like that. I'm eyeballing the pen to the center axis here. I'm going to bring it down, and then I'm simply hand tightening the screws to hold the pen in place. And it's very quick to tell. You can swing the pen around, and now with the pen in there, I can swing it around, and I can see that the pen is still spinning around a small circle just by looking at the point. So all I'm going to do is just loosen the screw up, bring it down a little bit more, hand tighten the screw, and we're pretty close to it. So now I've got the pen positioned the way I want it. I'm going to snug it up with a screwdriver. Of course, don't do it too hard. You'll crush your pen. Now, one of the things we want to be very careful about when we're doing this is the pen will come across. You can hit something and break it. So you just always want to be aware, just like with CNC router bits, you always want to be aware of things that may be in the way when you actually start to write. So I'm going to tighten it down, and then we are going to set the Z, X, and Y to position it, and then we'll write on the card. So I have set my X and Y position to the lower, to this corner right here on the board, which is the lower left corner of the project. And I can simply position that project right here. The important thing is setting your Z properly. So what I have found, the way I like to set the Z is I will take the paper that I'm writing on, this envelope, and I will take another piece of paper right on top of it, and we will just simply start to nudge it down. And I'm going at the lowest speed possible, and I'm moving the paper around until it actually starts to write on a piece of paper. And so it's taking a minute, but there we go. I can feel it starting to grab, and there it is. You can see I got a little line on the paper here. So what I'm going to do is just bump it up just a tad on my Z so that paper is now free and it's not writing on the envelope. I'm very good with that. So now I'm going to set the Z in the Genter software just by pressing the Z. Everything else is set, and all we have to do is simply press the go button and write. So here we go. I don't even have the paper held down, and most of the time I don't even need to hold the paper when I'm doing this. So we're going to click the start button. Now things are going a little slow right now because the plunge rate is a little slow. I've learned to speed the plunge rate up you can see in this little amount of time, I have now written a card using this little pen contraption from Shark CNC. It's a very, very cool little tool that who knows how you can use it. The way I can use it is by saying hello to CNC creators who purchase IDC Woodcraft CNC router bits products off of Amazon. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you'll consider purchasing router bits from IDC Woodcraft. Subscribe to the channel because I got a ton of stuff like this for you to teach you all about CNC routers, designing, and just these cool little tricks. With that, have a great day, better tomorrow, and happy CNCing. idcwoodcraft.com